I have a little confession to make. I didn't actually watch 100 horror movies. I watched 101 horror movies. Ladies and gentlemen, please hold your applause. Now you may be thinking, damn, this guy must really love horror movies. Well, guess what, buddy? You're wrong. I hate them! So now you may be wondering why someone who hates horror movies would watch 100 horror movies. To be honest, I don't really know myself. My original idea was to watch all these movies, and then for each movie I took notes, and I'd give a brief description of what I thought about the movie and a little bit about the plot. This challenge made me question my sanity. Now you're probably asking yourself, why does this man hate horror movies so much? The reason I hate them is not because they're too scary. The reason I don't like horror movies is because I think they're poorly written, the characters suck, and the plot is uninteresting, among many other reasons. I was actually thinking about making a video going into depth on why I think these movies suck, so look out for that when it comes out. But yeah, I decided to watch all these movies, and I regret it now. I would not wish this on my worst enemy. Let's start with the rules. In order for this stupid challenge to seem authentic, I decided to create some rules for myself. First of all, I had to watch 100 horror movies and write my thoughts on all of them. Pretty simple, but there's more rules than that. Rule number 1, I had to watch the whole movie no matter how bad it was. Rule number 2, I can only watch the first movie in the series, with a couple of exceptions. I'll get to those when I get to them. I didn't watch the sequel on the vast majority of these movies. They get one chance to impress me. Rule number 3, no remakes. I tried to stick to the original movie only. Some of the originals I couldn't find, but I had to make do with what I had. Number 4, if a movie is so bad it's good, it stays in the bad category, no matter how badly I want to put it in the good category. Which brings me to the next thing I'm going to talk about. I'm going to be breaking this video into 4 different segments. Bad horror movies, good horror movies that I didn't necessarily enjoy but I respect them, great movies that weren't scary, and then actually scary horror movies. The vast majority of these movies I had seen for the first time for this challenge. I also wanted to stick to the most famous horror movies of each decade, with a few oddballs mixed in there, but I had to make sure I had to watch all of the cult classic horror movies. I am about to brutally slander a bunch of beloved horror movies, so if you're not into that and you don't like having different opinions than I do, don't watch this video. I also wanted to say that I'm probably gonna spoil a lot of these movies, so if you see a movie coming up that you wanted to watch without it being spoiled, please skip it. Anyway, you've been warned, now it's time to get to the movies. Okay, starting this list off strong, we got Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I actually enjoyed this movie, but to be honest, we all knew it was going to be on the bad movies list. Like, come on. This movie is so dumb. Clowns that turn people into cotton candy and abduct them using a flying circus tent. Like, come on, dude. It's just too dumb. I can't put it on the good movies list. Not gonna lie, I beat the fuck out of those kids. Especially that weird Jesus one. I watched these 2 movies before the challenge, and honestly, I could not tell you for the life of me what happened in either of them. I guess there's this, like, clown dude. His name's, like, what's his name again? Penny, Penis Man. They should have just called these movies shit. Am I right, guys? I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy. I didn't like this movie because there wasn't enough Freddy Krueger. I thought Freddy was hilarious. He's like a big dream doofus, and every time he tries to be scary, it just comes off as really, really goofy. The rest of the movie was ass, though. Here's Johnny! This is the best Stanley Kubrick movie. But that isn't saying much because he's kind of ass. I'm sorry, I don't see what the big whoop is about Stanley Kubrick. The guy kinda sucks. I don't see why his movies are so critically acclaimed all the time. But yeah, despite being his best movie, it still kinda sucks. This This film was fine, but it was not nearly as good as people make it out to be. I also don't understand why it's considered a horror movie, to be honest with you. It wasn't really that scary. It seemed more like a political commentary, if anything. I also don't understand why Patrick Bateman is considered the Sigma male. The dude is a mentally ill psychopath. I don't know why a bunch of 13-year-olds think he's like the coolest guy ever. This movie was fine, but it wasn't really anything to write home about. The writing wasn't awful, especially when you compare it to other horror movies on this list, but the actual monster itself was basically just scary whisper MP3. There was only one part of the movie that actually scared me though, and that was seeing Machine Gun Kelly naked. I see it every time I close my eyes.
O cholera! Czy to Freddy Fazbear?
Stephen King thought it would be scary to write a romance novel about a man and his 1958 Plymouth Fury falling in love with one another. How this is supposed to be scary exactly, I'm not really sure. TLC actually did the same thing later on, but theirs was way scarier because the dude makes out with his car on camera. Don't watch either of these. Low-key, this movie's kinda boring. It feels like I just watched an hour and 47 minutes of Arnold going into the woods and shooting at nothing. This film not only sucked, it made me genuinely angry. Listening to Sally scream for 30 minutes straight was one of the most obnoxious things I've ever had the displeasure of sitting through. I wanted Leatherface to jump through the screen and kill me, just so I didn't have to listen to that annoying ass screaming. Yes, I did watch Fred 2 for this list. Yes, Fred is a horror movie. No, I do not regret watching this movie.
I came.
Yo, why the hell is everyone so horny? And is that David Bowie? Wait a minute. Pinhead? Pinhead Larry! Oh, God. They're everywhere.
I'm the Invisible Man.
I mean, it was a goofy movie. I definitely enjoyed it. But was it scary? I'll let that clip speak for itself. This shit was boring as hell. Those aren't zombies. They're just regular people who are handicapped.
Irish Spring, green.
Normally a horror movie about leprechauns would be right up my alley, but this one just wasn't as funny as it looks. It was honestly kind of disappointing, which is odd because I wasn't expecting it to be a good movie anyway. But yeah, I was disappointed with this movie. I couldn't tell you a damn thing about this movie. All I remember is that there's worms and Kevin Bacon and it sucked.
I like turtles.
Why does the Prowler kind of look like a turtle? Also, this film is slow and terrible. I would rather go to the DMV than watch this film again. Really? People smiling? That's what you think is scary? You must have been terrified whenever a Colgate commercial came on. Like, come on. There's also like 900 jump scares in this film. It's really, really obnoxious. Bro, I'd beat the fuck out of Chucky. He's like 2 feet tall. I don't understand how all the characters in this movie couldn't deal with this guy. He's so short. He should be an easy fight.
They must have amnesia. They forgot that I'm him.
I had a very difficult time following this movie. But the faces Dracula made were pretty funny, so I guess that was cool. This movie was not only written by Stephen King, but also directed by him. Which is self-evident because this movie is complete garbanzo beans. The plot is all over the place and doesn't make any sense. The dialogue is weird. The pacing is ass. The acting is mediocre at best, and the soundtrack is way too upbeat for a horror film. Also, the antagonists are electrical appliances, which is so stupid. It sounds like it's a joke. And the main appliances are mainly trucks, which are way too similar to Christine. I have mixed opinions on this movie. I wanted to like it because the concept was great and I liked the villains a lot. However, the movie shoots itself in the foot by making the characters complete morons, and the ending kind of stunk and didn't make much sense. It stinks too because the concept behind this movie is really, really cool. Like having a day where all crime is legal. That seems awesome to me. But yeah, it was a little bit of a stinker.
Fire!
Frankenstein's monster, more like Frankenstein's victim. The only crime this dude committed was having a bad upbringing. But anyways, this movie is okay, but I wouldn't really watch it again. It's just old school horror movie. Nothing to write home about.
You're ugly. You're disgusting. I'm going to kill you. Give me $200.
Is this even a horror movie? I'm not really sure. Google said it was, but it feels more like a romance to me. It's kind of like Christine in that sense, but Christine is more attractive than this guy because Homeboy is chopped. Swamp Thing only kills one person this whole movie. It's kind of lame. Also, I don't understand why Swamp Thing is the main character. Shouldn't he be the guy we're afraid of? It seems a little odd to me that he's the hero of the film and this is considered a horror movie.
Bees make honey.
I could make an entire video on this movie because this was doo-doo. I'm going to try to keep this brief, but this movie's trash in every category. It's straight up disrespectful to the source material and was clearly made just for nostalgia bait. The only thing this movie does well are the kills. They did my boy dirty. He didn't deserve this. The scariest part about this movie is the opening scene. I know all the actresses were adults, but depicting an extremely provocative scene in a high school locker room just comes off as really creepy to me. It seems like something that Schneffrey Jepstein would enjoy. Overall, it was just not a good movie in general, but that kind of like just set me off. It puts a bad taste in my mouth. Obviously, babysitters aren't scary. However, this is a comedy movie. It wasn't really that funny though. The babysitter struggles with something we like to call millennial writing. The movie would get really close to being funny and then someone would say something millennial and it would ruin it. If you know, you know. King Bach was the only funny part of this movie. I waited an hour and 15 minutes to see an old lady with an ugly ass sweater. I don't remember a single thing that happened in this film. My notes literally just say I don't remember anything, so I guess there's like a wolf dude in it and he's angry or something, I don't know. It was okay, but I don't really understand why you would watch a VHS if you knew it was gonna kill you. Like, just pop in a copy of Shrek 2 instead.
Bulletproof, nothing to lose. Fire away, ricochet, you take your aim. Fire away, you shoot me down, but I won't fall. I am titanium. I did enjoy this movie, but I can't say it was a good movie because it actually achieved the opposite of what it was going for. I ended up actually feeling bad for Megan when she's supposed to be the thing I'm afraid of. Megan felt more like a victim than an actual villain. All of the issues in this movie are caused by the main character and her negligence, and she doesn't really suffer any of the consequences for it. She should have fixed Megan before she went haywire, and she shouldn't have neglected her niece. Instead, she just cared about her own career and was just a shitty person. So watching a shitty person get rewarded the whole movie kinda sucks. Megan didn't deserve it.
In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti.
I was a little disappointed with this movie. One of the things that I absolutely loved about The Conjuring was the religious science aspect to the exorcisms. However, in The Nun, it's much less like that. The plot was kind of boring. It just felt like the characters were walking around a castle for an hour, getting scared over and over again. It felt like there was no real purpose to the protagonist's visit to the castle.
Also, one of the things that made The Conjuring so scary was the subtlety. Occasionally you would see something move in the background and the MC might have missed it, but the viewer at home definitely saw it, and I thought it was really cool. They still have that in this movie, but it felt like they replaced it with more jump scares. It really makes it more annoying than scary. The demons are a lot less subtle in this movie, which stinks because the subtlety was what made the demons in The Conjuring more scary. So yeah, it seems like a big drop in quality compared to The Conjuring. I was definitely a little disappointed.
Holy shit! It's the Slender Man! And he's cooking hot dogs on the stove!
This film has trash writing, cringy CGI, and the screen is always so dark that I can't tell what the fuck I'm looking at. But the worst part is that my boy Slendy shows up for like 5 minutes in this movie. How are you going to make a movie called Slender Man without Slendy? This is my childhood we're talking about. Slendy was there in my childhood scaring me, and you did this to him? How dare you? The characters spend the majority of this movie running from nothing. It's like Slender Man. This movie's called Slender Man. You need to make it about my boy.
Do you want to play a game?
It's a very cool concept, but it was very poorly executed. Having traps that people get put into and therefore have to escape by doing something horrible to themselves seems really cool, and John Kramer is a great villain. However, there were way too many flashbacks and it made the plot mad confusing. They explore one of the main character's motivations, but not really the others as well, and also the acting wasn't super great. I watched this movie because of the title. Honestly, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be, but it was still pretty mid though, so that's why it's on the bad movies list. Honestly, nothing happens this entire movie. Some rocks and sticks moved! This film aged pretty poorly. Back in the 90s, I can see why people believe this, but now, YouTube channels are pumping out fake monster sightings all the time. This is the same shit we have, but the YouTube shit is actually better than this.
Shut up, Grandma!
Wait, so you're telling me that the creepy grandma that strips an underage boy naked at gunpoint was actually evil the whole time? No way, I was not expecting that. First of all, why would you offer to take someone's pet to the pet cemetery if you knew it was evil? Second of all, why is this dude's acting complete ass? Third of all, how is your 3-year-old son's body still intact after being hit by a semi-truck going 20 miles over?
Hi, I'm the Wicked Wiener.
It's just a bunch of random shit happening for no reason. Also, is a sequel to this movie called Toys R Us. Am I right, guys? I miss you, Toys R Us. Please come back. Hey, how about you stop playing with the cursed severed hand, dumbasses? And take that damn foot out of your mouth. This ain't a Tarantino flick. There are some very badass scenes in this movie, but it's brought down by a bunch of plot holes and the fact that the characters are complete morons. It's a movie about cave divers that get attacked by an army of blind golems. The golems rely on hearing to locate their prey, but they're not that good at it because they can't hear nearby footsteps or breathing. However, the characters are great at letting the creatures know exactly where they are at all times because they never shut the fuck up. There is a plane and a guy named Shrek in this movie. I mean, it was fine, but it didn't really leave an impression on me, and it was kind of just okay. It was a little disappointing because it's a Spielberg movie, but honestly, it was kind of a letdown, and it was just a mediocre ghost movie.
Hey, just wondering if you got your photos printed?
Logos printed?
Nothing really to write home about, except for the fact that the villain kind of looks like Mick Thompson. This shit was way too slow. The demonic elements of it were pretty cool, but they really only showed up much later on in the movie. They tried to give a scientific explanation as to why things were happening in this movie, which normally I'm a big fan of, but I felt like they didn't do a very good job at explaining. I wanted a better explanation as to why the protagonists were being hunted by Darth Maul. The dialogue is also pretty cringe, and also they put this horrible gray filter over everything, and it makes the movie look so bad. Don't get me wrong, the special effects were top notch, they were amazing, but I wasn't blown away by the plot or characters. This movie is kind of like Among Us, but instead of sussy imposters, there's aliens. And everybody knows how much I hate Among Us.
I must find a way to stop Christmas from coming.
This movie is very similar to Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey, except that this was somehow worse. The main one is just another nostalgia bait movie that uses a cheap rip-off Grinch as its main selling point. And the thing is, this isn't even the first time the directors have done this. Look at this! This movie manages to suck in every category, and the scariest part was how fucking cringy it was. Why'd you have to do that to my boy the Grinch? Why? Okay, I think I'm halfway through the movies, so this would be a good time to shamelessly plug my channel. I worked very hard on this, and it took me a very long time to watch all these god-awful movies, so I would really appreciate it if you liked and subscribed. Anyway, back to the video. The protagonist of this movie is the cameraman as well, and this whole movie gave me like a weird, awkward vibe. It was kind of like The Office. I'm not sure if I'm the only one who felt this way, so I guess let me know in the comments below. The thing is though, this movie isn't nearly as entertaining as The Office. Imagine taking the socially awkward element and instead of making it funny, it's actually just really weird and difficult to watch. It didn't come off as scary at all. It's just super cringy. It was like being in a really long and awkward conversation that you want to walk away from but can't because it's impolite. The jump scares were also stupid as fuck. It was literally just the stalker guy jumping out and saying boo basically. This movie is an hour-long cringe fest. Just don't watch it. I will say though, the acting was top notch. The guy who played this stalker was great at making me feel uncomfortable. It just wasn't really in a scary way. The idea behind this is really, really cool. Like having a business where they capture basically tourists and then keep them in this old abandoned building and rich people pay to torture them seems really cool for a horror movie, but it was not well executed at all. The first half hour of this movie is basically corn. Like there's so much schmecks. The characters are also super unlikable. They're the stereotypical annoying American tourists, and the whole reason that they're living in a hostel is basically for schmecks. There's also just a whole bunch of subplots that lead nowhere. Like, who the fuck are these kids that just beat people down in the street for candy? Google said this was a horror movie, but the only monster I see here are monster jugs. But anyway, this movie is just a shitty comedy and a massive gooner movie. Like, watch this movie if you're a massive gooner, but if you're here for the comedy, just don't watch it. It's not funny. I have a lot of problems with this movie. The entire first half is about a wife that is cheating on her spouse, and then the husband finds out, and then it goes nowhere. Then the second half of the movie, Cujo shows up. The husband finds out that his wife is cheating, and then he just leaves for the rest of the movie on a business trip. I'm not even joking. Also, why is Saint Bernard? You know, this movie would have been way scarier if it was about a pit bull named Princess that gets loose and attacks an elementary school. To me, that's much scarier. Yes, the cinematography is great, but this movie is so slow. You spend like 20 minutes watching people eating fucking dinner. And there's a ton of these like religious ceremonies that go on for way too long. I didn't know they had sloths living in Sweden until I watched Midsommar.
Bird, bird. The bird's a word, bird. The bird is a word.
Half of this movie is really boring drama. This shit is like the stuff that my grandma would like. And I am not my grandma! The second half of this movie is just a bunch of dumb, goofy bird stuff, which is fine, I guess. My question is, how are these birds so clean? The entire house should be absolutely covered in bird shit, and yet it's spotless. You could have gone for a little bit of realism, Alfred. Annabelle was okay, but it wasn't nearly as scary or as memorable as The Conjuring. So I'm not going to put it in the great movies category. It's still leagues better than The Nun. Also, Annabelle is infinitely scarier than Chucky in every way. Why would anybody buy this thing? And why would you give her such prominent cheek muscle? This doll never stops mewing. I wasn't super impressed by Us. I mean, sure, a movie about doppelgangers that live underground is interesting, but it wasn't that interesting. There's also a very cryptic message that this movie was trying to convey, but I think a lot of people just missed it, including myself. I had to watch the film theory analyzing this movie to get it, and the actual secret wasn't that interesting. This movie was just overall not super memorable. Where do I begin? This movie was a fun watch, but damn, it is shit. 10% of this movie is actually horror, and the rest of it is like the weirdest teen drama you will ever watch in your life. The acting is dismal, and the lines are extremely corny, so that's a plus. But it gets worse. The plot is so fucking weird. I don't even know where to begin. The movie is about two cousins that go to a camp, and then someone starts killing all of the campers. And this camp is a shit show. There are kids that relentlessly bully this special needs girl. There's this weird flashback where two of the kids are making fun of their dad for having gay schmecks. And some of the staff members are schmedophiles. Not just regular schmedophiles. These guys are like blatantly schmedophilic. Homie wears it like it's a badge of honor. It's so weird. Anyway, this movie is a ride, and it genuinely made me question my sanity. This is just a worse version of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I already hated that movie. The only good part of this movie was Beauty, which is the dog. And this dog is badass. It starts like ripping through one guy's leg. It's sick. Also, how the hell do these goofy homeless people know how to use walkie-talkies? They made a horror movie about the Foo Fighters, where Dave Grohl gets possessed and starts killing people. The other Foo Fighter members fucking die. This movie is awesome. It's super dumb, and I really enjoyed it. That being said, I can't justify it being in the great movies category. It's just too gimmicky, like the whole using the Foo Fighters brand as kind of what makes this movie so funny. I would still take this movie over many of the other movies on this list though. If you like the Foo Fighters and want a stupid, funny watch, go see this movie. But to be honest, if you're not a Foo Fighters fan, I'm not 100% sure you'll enjoy this one. So that's kind of why it's in the bad movies category.
Oh my God!
This is kind of like the National Lampoon's Christmas, except Krampy shows up with his bad CGI gingerbread men and kidnaps everybody. It's kind of a goofy movie. Sometimes when people get kidnapped, the writers decide to add goofy sound effects. Also, the grandma is super annoying in this movie. She knew about Krampus the whole time and never told anybody. And she had years to do it. What's even more annoying is that she pretends to only speak German. She understands English but only speaks German. And then in one scene, she tells everybody about Krampus. And she tells them about him in English, like perfect English. I don't get this lady at all, and I don't like her. Okay, the soundtrack is great, but the rest of the movie is not so great. This movie was super influential, and it shows because you can see all the classic horror movie tropes. However, normally you would copy something good, and all the tropes in Halloween are really, really bad. You've got the annoying ass teens, you've got the dumbass decision making, you've got the whole 9 yards. I also don't understand how Mike Myers got to be so popular. He literally never talks and is just a dude in a mask. He's just kind of a lame villain in my opinion. This is just a worse version of Ringu. They got the same monster. The only difference is that the plot of Ringu was better and so were the characters. This film was okay, but a lot of the time it just came off as cryptic and weird, like the douchey rich people food they were eating the whole movie. Honestly, this movie is just a worse version of Chef.
Who's my favorite movie star?
I don't know. Marilyn Monroe.
No, Betty Davis. Sorry, you lose!
This film was written and directed by Robert B. Zombie, and it shows. It looks like one of his music videos. It also makes you question your sanity because frankly, I have no fucking idea what's going on the whole movie. I think that was kind of the point, so I didn't hate it, but it definitely was a bad movie. Honestly, I might make a whole video about this movie because this shit is weird. So I'm gonna keep it short. As the name of the movie implies, this movie is about Abraham Lincoln and his quest to kill vampires. Oh, and he doesn't just kill them. I'm talking he beats the hell out of them. There's like slow-mo shots of him roundhousing vampires. He also swings around this axe that turns into a gun. I can't decide whether this movie is stupid or awesome.
Smoke weed every day.
When I found out that there was a movie in which Snoop Dogg plays a 70s gangster that comes back from the dead to exact his vengeance, I knew I had to watch it. Unfortunately, this movie isn't nearly as cool as it sounds, and for some reason the blood they use looks like red candle wax instead of actual blood. The scenes with Snoop Dogg killing people were cool, but that's the only good part of the movie. The rest of it was kinda lame. Also, Snoop Dogg is way too chill to be scary. They should have used Jay-Z instead. That dude is disgusting.
I farted and a poopy almost slipped out.
Aw, come on, man. I didn't want to see this shit. This isn't scary. It's just straight up gross. Why would anybody want to make a movie like this? Like, why? I can't even use clips of the human centipede because of how disgusting it is. I know what's a good idea. Let's make a movie about stitching people's bum holes to other people's mouths. That'll be really scary, won't it? Well, it's not. It's just gross. You do realize poop comes out of those, right? Like, come on, man. This is disgusting. Yeah, nothing happens a whole film. I mean, I guess there's this killer fog that shows up with, like, pirates living in it, but it doesn't really show up till the end, so yeah, very boring watch.
You're in my shirt! You're in my shirt!
I watched this movie because I thought it was going to be a fun Nick Cage movie, and it completely missed the mark. The concept for this movie is really cool. A gang of bikers and hippies go on super LSD and kill Nick Cage's girlfriend. So Nick Cage also takes super LSD and goes on a violent killing spree. The director wanted the audience to feel like they were also on super LSD during this movie to add to the theme, which is super LSD. Unfortunately, this is what kills the movie because the director deliberately made the movie's plot and visuals look like ass in order to achieve this like hallucinogenic effect. This movie is way too long and ugly to be good. And what stinks is that Nick Cage was peak in this movie. He only spends like 20 minutes doing shit that's interesting though. So like, I felt cheated. There's a part of the movie where Nick Cage is in his underwear drinking an entire bottle of vodka and screaming. and I wanted more of that, and I didn't get it.
Do you suffer from a lack of a father figure?
I watched this film because I heard a lot of people talking about it online, and holy shit, this movie is bad. I could make a whole video on why this movie is bad, because it is bad. Anyway, the whole message behind this movie is basically that parents should let their kids do whatever they want. The writer clearly got his Xbox taken away by his parents as a kid and held a grudge ever since. Grimcutty only appears when a kid's parents worry about them too much, and it's really dumb. The thing is, I don't even blame the parents for being worried about their kids, because the main character, their daughter, makes ASMR YouTube videos. Like, no wonder they're worried about her. Grimcutty looks like Gru mixed with Voldemort, and he's really goofy. He walks around like there's wet shit in his pants, and he didn't have a backup pair of underwear. You can't take this movie seriously at all, and it's clearly just a millennial writing piece of garbage. Fuck you, Hulu. I paid for this shit.
Come down to Nevic Hospitality, I'll come out of my house and I'll break your fucking legs.
I think this would have been better if it wasn't a musical. The plot was really good, but the songs didn't really land. It also just had too much singing. I'm not the biggest fan of musicals, and this one just wasn't really impressive in terms of musical elements. I will say though, out of all the movies on this list, this one has to be the most British by a landslide.
Hulk smash, little man!
I think the 1920s one is the original, so this is the one I watched. The horror aspects were good for a 20s movie, but I didn't find this movie super interesting. I also had a hard time following the plot. It's probably because I'm illiterate and can't read subtitles, but yeah, I wasn't a fan of this movie.
Groovy.
I decided to put these in the same category because they're both Evil Dead movies and they both weren't very good. I didn't know this before watching, but Evil Dead 2 is a remake of Evil Dead 1, and Army of Darkness is the third movie in the series. I was recommended Army of Darkness, so that's why I watched all three of these movies. I know that breaks the rule, but I watched all three, so. Anyway, Evil Dead 1 is much better than Evil Dead 2. For starters, the acting is way too over the top. The characters are super hyper, and it feels like you're watching a bunch of toddlers with ADHD on 500 milligrams of caffeine. I also thought the special effects were much better in Evil Dead than they were in 2. There was a little too much stop motion, and it took away from the movie. The worst part of the movie was the pacing. This movie moves at light speed, and a lot of weird shit is happening. This movie is very, very random, which is fine because it kind of goes with the theme, but if you're trying to add a bunch of strange paranormal stuff, you have to give the viewers a little time to process it. Most of this movie is just the characters screaming at a bunch of random shit going down, and then the viewer questioning their sanity. Anyway, this one wasn't that fun for me. Army of Darkness, I fuck with this movie, but I can't call it good. This movie is dumb as balls. Like, why the hell does it take place in the 1300s? That's like making a Back to the Future movie that takes place in the Wild West. Also, the one-liners are cheesy as hell. This series has gone from horror movies to Jim Carrey's The Mask. But for real though, I enjoyed this movie a lot more than I did with Evil Dead 2, but that's only because I don't have to take anything seriously, and the fight scenes were much better compared to 2. 80% of this movie is boring conversations and people looking for the Blob. And it only shows up in like the last 20 minutes. The Blob is essentially a giant ball of slime. And this thing is slow. I'm talking like short bus slow. You could walk away from this thing, make yourself a sandwich, and it still wouldn't catch you. And yet somehow it manages to kill like 40 people. Yeah, the people in this movie are pretty stupid. You have to be like a special type of moron to get caught by this thing. Watching a deaf woman sit in her house for an hour and a half is kind of boring. And don't even get me started on the killer. He is the biggest doofus. He's kind of a moron too. Just look at him. He looks like he drives a lifted truck with a Punisher sticker. He looks like the quiet kid in the back of the class, and he's always got this stupid ass look on his face. Like, close your mouth, bro.
Nope.
I thought the last 40 minutes of this film were good, but the rest I wasn't too keen on. The first hour and a half are really, really boring with not too much going on. I get there's a cryptic message throughout this movie, but I kinda don't care. Ooh, a shoe, how philosophical. When I learned the big mystery, I was kinda like, that's it? It's even more cryptic than Us, and I wasn't super impressed by that movie either. I'd rather just watch a movie about hunting aliens without all the symbolism. Also, I want a movie about killer chimps. I felt upset when I found out the whole chimp scene was just some stupid form of symbolism. I felt cheated. I've been saying this shit for years. Chimps are fucking terrifying, so make a movie about them. What's a guy gotta do to have a movie about chimps and aliens, am I right?
Pizza time.
I have no idea why this movie exists, but I'm so glad it does. This film is so fucking stupid and it wears it like a badge of honor. I know it's kind of a FNAF ripoff, but I would take this movie over the FNAF movie any day. And I would probably take this over most of the other ones on this list. I wanted to put this movie in the good movies category so bad, but I can't because it's just too stupid. I enjoyed this way more than I should have, and I highly recommend it. I could make a whole video on why this movie is so awesome, so let me know if you want that in the comments. Nick Cage beating down animatronics as a mute guy is the greatest thing ever. I will be watching this movie again. For a movie called Don't Breathe, the characters breathed awfully loud. They would be in the same room as the killer and would have conversations with each other, and he still wouldn't hear them. Apparently the blind dude is deaf as well, cause somehow he sucked at hearing. I think everybody else nearby was deaf as well, because there's no way nobody heard the large amount of gunshots coming from this dude's house. The characters in this movie are also really unlikable. You have the simp, the asshole, and the other asshole that's a moron. And you have the creepy blind dude as well. None of the characters have moral standards, not even the protagonist. They all suck. So you're stuck not rooting for anyone. Okay, we are now finally done with the bad movies. It's about damn time. Now let's talk about the good movies. I want to talk about two movies that were well written, but I didn't necessarily enjoy. I just felt bad not leaving them on the good movies category because I think they were just well done. But starting off the list, we have... This film was definitely ahead of its time, and I think it was really well written. The characters were actually competent, and the villain was good, and there was a satisfying plot twist at the end. It was also very, very close to being scary, which is difficult to pull off for a movie made in the 60s. This movie is a detective/horror film, which just helped flesh out the plot. I personally wasn't the biggest fan of this movie, but I can see why this movie was so hyped. It definitely was better than most of the films on this list, which is why I had to put it in the good movies category. I was terrified of Nosferatu as a kid, even though I hadn't seen the movie. It was that scene from the hash-slinging slasher episode of SpongeBob that scared me, where like Nosferatu's flicking the lights on and off at the end of the show. That's what scared me about the hash-slinging slasher episode, not the actual hash-slinging slasher. Anyway, I didn't find him scary this time, but he was definitely scarier than a lot of the monsters on this list. To be honest, this movie aged quite well considering it didn't even have audio. The sets were very, very good, and the bad quality kind of made it look better in a way. Would I watch this movie again? No, but I respect this movie, and that's why it's on this list. Oh boy, now it's time to talk about movies I actually enjoyed. Whoa, mama! Obviously in this section, these are the movies that I thought were great and I would totally watch again, but they weren't actually scary. Starting off the list, we got...
Spell red.
Red? L-S-T-E-R.
Find me one person who doesn't like Beetlejuice. And if they tell you they don't, they're lying. I can totally see what the hype is about with this movie. I think it aged quite well and was overall a great watch. The special effects aged really, really well in a weird way. Like, it looks better than modern Marvel CGI, and it's a fun movie. Was it scary though? No, and I think it's because the antagonist is a shark. Sharks aren't scary, they're just rad. When you learn the science behind sharks, they really aren't too bad. Now, dolphins are way scarier, because at least a shark won't try to molest me before killing me. Fun fact, this was actually my first horror movie. The last time I watched it, I was a strapping wee lad in high school. Now I'm a 40-year-old geriatric fuck. Anyways, I decided to rewatch this movie because it had been such a long time, and I was surprised to find that I still really enjoyed this film. This movie does a great job of building emotion and intensity. The writers did a great job fleshing out the characters and the family dynamic in this movie. I also really enjoyed the survival elements. It was a really interesting depiction of what it would be like to live without sound. Now, I know the whole stay quiet or the killer will catch you shtick is a little old. However, A Quiet Place does this better than all those movies because they actually know when to shut up. They make these movies where the monster is blind and can only use sounds to catch you, but whenever you watch those movies, the characters never shut the fuck up. That's why this movie does the whole silence thing better, because the characters are smart enough to know when to stay quiet and how to. And they try to only use sounds when they have to or they mess up. Also, Jim from The Office is in this movie. Did you know that, guys? This was actually a pretty good movie, and it was really well written. It's a movie that explores rough topics in a way that's entertaining. It did not scare me, but I think the monster was much scarier than most in these other movies. It was kind of like a kid's drawing of what scares them comes to life. It was really cool. I don't want to talk about the antagonist because it kind of spoils the movie, so I guess you'll just have to watch it yourself. I also just wanted to say the acting was really good. They had to get a child actor to be one of the main characters, and I just think he does a great job. Psst, I see dead people. This film is kind of like a psychological drama with a freaky twist. It gives a great take on ghosts and spirits, and I found it really interesting. It also gives its characters good backstories and really fleshes them out. This movie didn't really scare me though, but it will make you sad in a good way. But yeah, I would highly recommend this movie to anyone who just wants to watch something that's good. This is a bit of a hot take, but I feel like this is the only good Jordan Peele movie. The plot is way more simple in this movie, and the other ones are just way too cryptic. This movie just tells you what's going on, and you don't have to play this weird, oh boy, look for all the symbolism in this movie. Anyway, I said the plot is simple, but it's also really, really unique, and it's done in a way that keeps me invested the whole time. It's got a great story, and it's really, really fun to watch. The ending was also super badass. It's got a protagonist that's well written, and he helps keep me invested with the story. And the villains are also really interesting in this movie. Get this, the monster of this horror movie are white people. Wait a minute, I'm white. But all jokes aside, this is a great movie. Was it scary? No, not really, but it's still worth watching if you just want to watch something great.
What's your favorite scary movie?
I can see why this film saved horror from being killed in the 90s. This was actually a really good movie, and what's crazy is the whole time it's making fun of horror movies, just like me. This movie breaks all the stereotypes that previous horror movies all had and fixes them in a fun and comedic way. The characters have depth and are likable, and they aren't complete morons like all the other horror movies. The villain Ghostface is actually well written, and he isn't just some masked figure.
He's actually kinda goofy. The dialogue is realistic and funny, and overall, this is just a great movie. What's weird is this was directed by Wes Craven. He didn't write it though, like other movies, which is probably why this movie doesn't suck ding dong. Sorry, Wes, your movies suck.
The jack-o'-lantern.
Tim Burton cooked with this one. This film is a reimagining of the Sleepy Hollow book, and it's really cool. There's a lot of differences between the book, and I think it was a fun way of doing it for this film. It's not only a horror movie, but it's also a good detective movie. Overall, this film was well written. The Headless Horseman did not scare me though, mainly due to the fact that he was insanely badass. He was like an 18th century Terminator. He looks way too sick to be scary. He's like winning 2v1s and like twirling his sword around and shit. He looks awesome.
The zombies are coming.
I have a lot to say about this movie. If you want an excellent watch, this is it. This isn't just a film where they kill zombies the whole time. This is a work of art. It gives a brutal depiction of what a zombie apocalypse would be like, while also exploring the beauty of a completely silent world. Which is ironic because this movie looks and sounds like it was filmed using a toaster. 28 Days Later was made with a budget of only $8 million, so the camera and audio quality are kinda ass. And yet, it still manages to be better than the majority of the movies here. Not only does it give a good depiction of what it's like living with zombies, but it also gives a great depiction of what it's like to live with other survivors with limited resources as well. The writing is excellent. The acting was excellent. The characters are great, and there's a huge plot twist that no one would have ever seen coming. The ending is one of the most badass things I've ever seen in my life, and the soundtrack slaps. Even the cinematography was good despite the poor camera quality. I was thoroughly surprised by this movie, and I think everybody should go watch it.
Groovy.
Okay, so I already talked about Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness, but they weren't good movies in my opinion, and this one actually was. So I put it up here with the great movies. The story was simple but good in this one. It wasn't really all over the place, but it still had that weird demonic element. Also, Ash, I thought was the best in this movie. He's pretty badass while also being human instead of this crazy like action 80s guy. The cinematography was weird but cool. It still has the same style in the other movies, but this one I think just did it the best. And the zombies look the best in this movie. Like, they look really cool. And the practical effects were amazing in this one. I figured I'd talk about Alien and Aliens together because they're part of the same series. And yes, I know I'm breaking my rule about sequels, but in my defense, I was told by everybody who I talked to that Aliens was better than Aliens, so I figured I'd watch both. With Alien, I actually didn't like the movie the first time I watched it. I saw it before the challenge, but I decided to rewatch it for the challenge and I actually enjoyed it. Well, yes, there's parts that are slow, and I still think they're a little slow. I can't be mad at this movie because it does a great job in every other category. The sets look awesome, the practical effects are sick, and the story was pretty good. And it was a good way to lead into the sequel movie. And let's not forget the Xenomorph. The Xenomorph just looks sick. Even with the limited technology they had back in the late 70s, this thing looked awesome. Let's talk about Aliens with an S. Aliens. People were right, the sequel was better. It was pretty fucking cool. This does everything the first movie did, but better plus extra. All of the questions you had during the first movie get answered during this movie. And it also has great world building as well. You get to learn more about the xenomorphs and the humans in this fictional universe. There's also a lot of these badass sci-fi weapons and soldiers now. This movie was fire. I'm glad it gave the Alien series a second chance.
This one was fun. I liked this one. Sure, it was dumb and had some parts that weren't the best, but this movie was memorable and I enjoyed it. So I would say it deserves to be on the great movies list. The practical effects were goofy and cool at the same time. They were really good practical effects. This movie was surprisingly graphic for a PG movie, I'm not gonna lie. The kills were pretty solid. Like when they stuck that gremlin in the microwave. What the hell was that? That was awesome. Speaking of gremlins, we can't forget that they make great villains. The villains are very important to horror movies, and this one delivers. The gremlins were menacing and funny at the same time. It was really just fun watching all of their shenanigans. I also love Gizmo. He really made the movie better. I have no idea why he was the only gremlin who was nice, but I'm glad he stayed that way because he was just a great character and he added a lot of enjoyment to this movie.
What's in the box? What's in the fucking box?
I watched this one prior to the challenge and then I decided to rewatch it for the challenge, and I gotta say, it's even better the second time. If you want a great detective movie, this is the one for you. The plot of this movie is so interesting and it kept me invested the whole time. And the kills in this movie are also crazy. What's weird is most of the killings happen off camera, and yet they are some of the most graphic ones I've ever seen in any horror movie. The context of the kills just make them so vile. The acting was also great on all fronts. You got great protagonists, and Kevin Spacey was an excellent villain. He's actually so good at being the villain that he actually became one in real life. I guess he's a method actor or something, because he did great in this movie. There's also an excellent ending with a huge plot twist. I won't go into detail to save time, but yeah, watch this shit. Okay, here we go. These are the actual spookers. If you want a certified spook, these are the movies that actually scared me. I had heard stories about people passing out and vomiting during the sequel to this movie. So, of course, your boy had to check the series out. And I was actually surprised. I didn't vomit or pass out or anything, but this movie genuinely freaked me out. The movie does a great job at keeping things tense at all times, and it definitely got me. I think that the reason it was scary was because I was invested right from the get-go. I'm not sure if this is a hot take, but Art the Clown is an amazing horror villain. He's what kept me invested because I genuinely kinda like this guy. I know the story of this movie and the plot aren't that great, but Art just keeps you so invested. He's so funny. But what's weird is, like, he's super funny, but he's also really scary. I think the juxtaposition is what makes him so terrifying. When he's on screen doing his, like, shenanigans, he's really funny, but when he's off screen, that's when he's actually, like, really scary, because you don't know when he's gonna pop up next. The scene where he's dancing around dressed as a woman, that's the part that, like, really freaks me out. But yeah, with like a slasher film, I think the villains are supposed to be the main appeal of the movie, and normally they miss, especially since they're silent protagonists. But Art is a silent protagonist, but he does it so well because he's always miming shit out, and it's actually like pretty funny. So yeah, the writing wasn't too good, but Art really like carried this movie. Best movie from the Conjuring series that I've seen. This movie is awesome and scary. I love when horror movies make the protagonist badass. I'm so used to horror movies where the protagonists run away from the monster. In this one, the protagonist acts like Catholic ghost hunters. The monsters are demons that like possess objects and then transfer to people. The protagonists need to hunt down the demons using their equipment and Catholic powers. There's almost like a process and science to catching demons, and I think it's really, really cool. It's weird to me that the demon was actually scary because half the time the demon isn't even visible. You'll see something in the corner of the room briefly and then it'll just disappear. I think this movie has great camera shots and it feels more terrifying because of it. And there are jump scares in this movie, but I think it does a great job at the jump scares. I don't feel like annoyed every time one shows up. It genuinely like spooks me. You know I had to put this on here. This movie's goated, and it genuinely scared me the first time I watched it. I watched it again for this video, and it didn't get me the second time, but honestly, it's just a great watch, and it still scared me the first time, so I'm putting it on here. Hannibal Lecter is probably one of the best villains of all time. He's extremely well written. The way he comes off is almost polite despite the horrible things he's done. He's an evil mastermind. This dude can convince people to off themselves in a short period of time and can easily get into someone's mind. The fact that he escapes while being guarded by 100 cops, this dude is awesome. And what's crazy is he isn't even the scariest part. Buffalo Bill is so creepy. I will warn you that only the end of this movie is really scary, but the payoff is totally worth it. This movie is a must watch. I wasn't actually a huge fan of Hereditary the first time I watched it, but the ending was so freaky that I had to rewatch it. This movie is one of those films that you need to watch multiple times in order to fully understand. There's a lot of cryptic shots and things that don't make a whole lot of sense the first time around. But once you start realizing what's going on, the movie becomes way better. This film really felt slow the first time around, but when you rewatch it, you start to realize that all of the seemingly weird shots are actually clues that help you decipher the code. It's not like a Jordan Peele movie where there's some kind of like political message. It's just like a mystery that you need to solve instead of some cryptic ass bullshit. This movie uses like a subtle type of horror, which I absolutely love. Occasionally you'll see something move in the background or realize that something that seemed out of place was actually quite sinister. I also want to mention the other aspects of this movie I really enjoyed. The acting was phenomenal, and the soundtrack, mwah, chef's kiss. I'm sure you've already heard this song, even if you hadn't seen the movie, it's so good. Anyway, this'll scare the shit out of you, so you should watch it. So yeah, that's all the movies. I decided to crunch some numbers afterwards, and there were a total of 101 movies on this list. And I thought that only 20 were good, which means that only 19% of these movies were actually good movies. I also roughly counted the length of each movie and added them all together. It took me 167.5 hours to watch all of these movies. I could have gotten a job during that time. What was I doing? Like, actually, what was I thinking? This was a massive waste of time. But, I mean, if you made it this far in the video, thank you very, very much. I appreciate it. I worked really, really hard on this. If you liked and subscribed, that would be pretty cool. One of the reasons I did this challenge, besides me like loving to torture myself, was I wanted to make a video on why I think horror movies just suck in general, like the whole genre. So look for that when it comes out, because this is kind of just research for that. And I also wanted to do a vid on some of these movies individually. So if you want me to do a video on a specific movie I talked about, then let me know in the comments. Oh yeah, one other thing, all of the gameplay footage is from my Twitch, so if you would like, you could also follow that, please. This gameplay is incredible, by the way. I'm playing Escape from Gruel.
There.
Where?
He's in the basement.
If you want to see more Escape from Gruel, here it is. Anyway, my name is Tejas the Almighty, and this has been a video that I've made for you.